Good afternoon, everybody. Frank Messina, and welcome you to the January 5th, 2021 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. There's a few comments and notes that we have to participate in. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman now. I don't see anybody hands, so I assume it's not being recorded. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meetings Law, General Law 30A18, and the Governor's March 23, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen into this meeting while it is in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. Conference ID 182-942-54#. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and will post a record of the meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Thank you very much. At this point, I would like to have a roll call, and just to meet the requirements and ensure we have a proper quorum. Just answer present. Bob Lear.
Present.
Sandy Porter.
Present.
Ben Solzinski.
Present.
Stephanie Hamilton.
Present.
Jane Moffett.
Present. I can't see anything.
Don Aikman. Steve
Present.
Burlingame.
Present.
Erica. Erica is absent. The chairman is present. So we have a full, all members present. So Mr. Burlingame will act as an alternate, participate in meetings, but will be non-voting at this particular session. Okay. We have one set of minutes from our last meeting on December 15, 2020. Are there any comments or corrections or deletions? Seeing none, Mr. Chair, or somebody can have a motion, please?
I move approval. It's Bob.
I'll second it.
Who was that seconding?
Done.
Thank you. Just say your name first. Michelle, can you take that
Yes.
share screen off?
Can't see anything.
Michelle?
Yes, Frank, I can stop sharing, sure.
Thank you.
Ah,
Okay, here we go. Roll call for the minutes. Vice Chairman Lear,
Yes.
Sandy? Abstaining?
I can't vote. I wasn't at the meeting.
Abstain. Thank you very much. Ben?
Oh, here, okay.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane?
yes.
Don?
Yes.
And that's it. Motion, and then the chair votes yes. Okay, very good. All right, we have a brief agenda in some ways. We have two public hearings, well, three actually, two applications and a public hearing on our potential change to the Historical Commission's rule changes. We then have a number of new business items, which I think we can get through quickly, but let's proceed. The first application to be heard is application 20001, to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158 of the Demolition Delay Bylaw. The address is 215 Main Street.
2515.
2515. Thank you very much. So, who do we, I just quickly note, before we begin the hearing on 2515 and 2517, there's no Form B for either. And it was listed no on this Eric survey. So having said that, who do we have representing the application?
Good afternoon, Susan Ledoux from Eastward Companies. How are you?
Very good. Nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you. And Bill Marsh is at his office, so he will probably. Yep, there he is. So he's participating also. So I'm going to go through my narrative for 2515 Main Street first, if you have that in front of you.
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. The existing conditions of the property, the existing home at 2515 Main Street is an 1,168 square foot, two-story bungalow style structure with a 630 square foot deck. The existing ridge of the home is 24 feet high. The existing home is located on an approximately 20,407 square foot lot. The assessor's map, street view, and aerial photographs show how the home sits on the right-of-way off of Main Street and is only visible to other homes on the right-of-way, not from Main Street. The assessor's information indicates that the house at 2515 Main Street was built in 1935. The home is noted as being within the South Chatham area on the Mass Historical Commission Form A, and as Frank just noted, does not have its own form. A review of photographs of the house indicate that the existing deck was added at some point and some cosmetic exterior and interior changes have been made over the years. Although the existing home was built in 1935, this home does not exhibit any historical value. No distinguishing historical qualities can be identified for the structure, landscaping, site, and/or setting. And as far as proposed work, which you require on your application form when a demolition is proposed, we've shown a home that we've built before, and you've probably seen it in some of our subdivisions in other areas of town. The existing home is proposed to be demolished. A new home will be constructed on this site. The proposed home will be approximately 3,200 square feet, 1.5-story Cape-style home with a covered front porch, two-car attached garage. And the footprint of the proposed house will be about 2,850 square feet and is approximately 58% larger than the existing footprint. The proposed ridge of the home will be 27.7 feet high. And what I've done is I've attached a proposed site plan of sorts showing the footprint of the house, the driveway, photograph of the proposed home, similar to what we've built in other areas of town, and also the elevation of the home. And it will be located approximately 30 feet from the right-of-way and will meet all zoning requirements. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer.
Okay. Hopefully, all the members of the commission were able to take a drive-by and take a look at the two properties in question.
Frank, I don't mean to interrupt you. Did you want me to do 2517 as well now, or wait?
We probably should do them independently.
Okay, all right.
Because we need two separate applications and whatever we decide.
Okay,
So,
thank
you very much.
you. Sure.
Michelle, are you there?
Yes, Frank, I'm here.
Okay. Does any member of the commission need to have Michelle display the application and the pictures, or you're okay with the form you have? Okay, good. I would also say that if any member of the public would like to see it, we can show it. Any member of the public listening? Nope. Okay, and of course, these are available, were available in the annex. So, okay, the first issue here is the relative concern as to whether or not we consider the home 2515 to be historically significant. Again, I would note there is no Form B, and it was listed as a no by by Eric when he did the analysis of high, low, and in between of all the homes in Chatham. So does anybody else want to comment?
Frank, it's Bob. Just, I think this is another example that, if nothing else, Steve has mentioned, that it's a nice old cottage, but there's nothing
Do we seem to, I would agree with
stand
Bob,
out
do
that
we
would meet
seem
the
to have,
criteria.
I'm sorry, did I speak over you, Bob?
No, that's right. Done.
Bob, I feel, I agree with Bob relative to its historical significance and that it's not. Does any member else of the commission, is there a different point of view? Jane, you have your hand up. Jane, do you wish to speak?
I think she's mouthing no.
Jane, you have to turn your microphone on.
I'm not on the screen. I didn't see myself.
Well, you're there, we can see you, but did you want to make a comment?
No, except that I, am sorry about the loss of historic houses.
Well, so the first question here really, yes, it's a house, but do we consider relative to that it's historically significant that we would put a demolition delay on it? So does anybody else feel it's historically significant? Stephanie?
I just have a question. I thought if a house was built over 75 years ago, it was historic.
No. The issue of, Ms. Briggs, would you turn your video off, please? The issue is the 75-year is the minimum threshold for us to consider whether a house is historically significant. As our good vice chair, Mr. Lear, often points out in the application, that's the threshold. Now, all right, it's 75 years old. What does it mean? And so that's the issue.
But I think we can't forget the word significant. I mean, it probably meets the definition of historic by being 75 years old or older, but unless you can indicate that somehow it's also significant, it's moot.
Yes, and I agree with you. And I think our consultant, Mr. Dre, also indicated that when he decided to put a no on it, whether or not we would bother putting a Form B. All right, before we proceed.
Frank, could I just raise another question,
Yes.
if you will?
Yes, sir.
We have a letter from a abutter.
Yeah, that's what I was about to do. Thank you.
Okay, and he questions, mentions zoning approval. And the question for Susan is, does this have to go to zoning?
This property does not, the property at 2517 will need to go before the Board of Appeals.
But
Or new
so the
home.
abutter's concerns about size, I guess, primarily, are something for zoning, and he will not get a shot at that for this house, but will for the other, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, let's focus on 2515. And let me read into the record. There's a letter dated, it's not dated, but we received it on December 16th to the Historical Commission.
Dated 12/12. Dated 12/12.
Excuse me?
Dated 12/12.
Well, not on, oh, thank you very much. I see in the top corner. Thank you very much, Steph. I am concerned about the two historical properties in South Chatham, 2515 and 2517 Main Street. I live next door in 2519. These two properties were home of a longtime resident, Frank Crowell, who passed earlier this year. The house and cottage were built sometime between the 1930s and 1950s and were one of early South Chatham homes. I understand the local builder has purchased the property, plans to tear them both down and build two large homes on very small lots. What does the Historical Commission have in place to ensure like historic homes like these are protected? Will there be review by the commission before zoning gives its approval? Will abutters be notified? A couple of questions. Mr. Cordier, are you on the meeting? I guess not. Oh, Delray, Florida. Okay. Very simply, The
I believe
process for
Mr.
historic homes is whether or not we consider it historically significant.
Mr. Kuchar is on this Zoom meeting.
Yes, I am here. This is.
Oh,
Mr.
sorry about that, sir.
I am
Okay.
here.
Yeah, he is.
Mr. Shapiro, you wish to speak to this application, Olo?
No, but
All right,
later
thank
on.
you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, well, let me answer your questions directly, Mr. Am I mispronouncing your name, Courtier?
Couture.
Well, that's good. You don't mind if I call you Gary?
That's great.
The Historical Commission, the first decision is we determine whether the house is historically significant. And as was pointed out by a brief discussion, age is the minimum requirement before us to consider the discussion. And we will be taking a vote on that shortly. Will there be review by the commission before the zoning approval is given? We're independent of the zoning. Sometimes the applicant will go to zoning before we have an application, and sometimes they'll go afterwards. I believe you haven't gone to zoning yet, correct?
Correct.
So, and that answers your questions. And your abutters are notified by zoning, especially if you're 2519. So, anything else you'd like to add to it, Mr. Courtier?
Not at this time.
Okay. Does anybody else want to speak for or against the application as related to this issue of historical significance? Yes, Mrs. Shapiro.
Yes, how are you?
Just give me your address if you don't mind.
2513 Main.
Thank you very much.
Thoughts on the other. And what signifies that 2515 would not have to go before ZBA, but 2517 would have to go before ZBA?
Well, that's a zoning question, which is outside our purview, but possibly the applicant will answer.
It's my understanding that we have the required area and frontage for the lot from our attorney for 2515, but 2517 will lack the required area and frontage in the R20 zone. So therefore, it's a lot that we'd have to go before the ZBA on 2517.
Did that
Right,
answer your
even
question?
though partially, even though on 2515, there's still a 58.5% increase of the footprint of the house. So that doesn't need a zoning approval?
We will meet the 2850 as far as building coverage, that's square footage for the required building coverage in the R20 zone.
Mrs. Shapiro, if you would like further clarification from the town, I suggest you call the community development and ask to speak to the zoning department. They could clarify any issues in addition to what you're hearing now.
I just have a few other questions.
Surely.
In the plan that was submitted, the layout of the house, or I should say the footprint where it is on the lot, is that final or can that be moved, or is that just an estimated, we'll call it footprint of where the house will be on the lot?
Again, that's a zoning question. It's not in our purview.
Right. Well, maybe could Susan or Bill Marsh maybe respectfully answer that?
Well, if we got a quick answer, yes, please.
It will be quick. Yeah, what we do is when we're required to show you what we're proposing in the place of the demolished house. So that is our accurate guesstimate as far as what it will be proposed as far as setback and location. It meets all the building setback requirements.
Right.
Does the dog agree?
I'm sorry?
Does the dog behind you agree?
Yeah, yes. Did you see him?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Susan, could I ask you just a couple more questions? Since you're this far along with plans for the home, as my property abuts it, the new home is going to be, the new proposed home is closer to my house, to the lot line. Is it Eastwood's intention to save all the trees on the lot line?
Can Mr. Marsh hear your question?
we're gonna save all trees along the lot line to provide buffer, planted vegetated buffer for both.
I see.
Okay,
I mean,
there are
I'm
no
a
other
little bit-
questions related to the historical significance. I'd like to move on, sir.
Okay,
I'm sure if you call Mr. Marsh's office, they'll be happy to discuss it with you.
sure, no, he's been very nice.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so if there's no member of the public wish to speak for or against the application as it relates to its historical significance? Mr. Lear?
I believe Sandy Porter might have her hand up.
I have
Oh,
my
Steph,
hand
I'm
up.
sorry. Go ahead. I mean, Sandy, yes.
Well, this is a really small, sort of close-knit neighborhood. And is there any possibility they could postpone doing the construction during the summer?
Again,
And-
that's a zoning issue, Sandy. That's really not us. Let's not get
Well,
into
we
that.
have in the past, Frank,
No,
suggested.
we don't. If we did, it's
Very-
not correct. We have
We
no
don't-
authority as it relates to construction. That's a
I'm not-
zoning issue.
I'm not saying we have authority, but we have suggested that perhaps the people doing the changing would be willing to work with the neighbors about doing construction in the summertime.
I'm sure they will be able to come to some kind of accommodation, but again, enforcement is really an issue for zoning. And I'd like to get any comments relative to historical significance so we could move on.
Well, I hate to see the loss of the house. I love a bungalow, but there is no historical significance to it. It's just that it's one of those wonderful old-time bungalows.
You know, the other thing we should remember is that, as I sent you, we have an application in to Mass Historic for South Chatham Village, which includes this area, but not all of this area as a National Registered District. And, we were very, very careful to include historical houses in that district, and this is not included. So having said that, Mr. Lear, we need your mic. Bob, we can't hear you, Bob. Your microphone.
Sorry. I move that the Chatham Historical Commission find that the building located at 2515 Main Street is not historically significant because it does not meet any of the definitional criteria in section 158-2, A, B, or C of the bylaw. Therefore, the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Second, Steph Hamilton.
Thank you very much. We have a second. Any other additional discussion? And again, no members of the public that we haven't heard from. Vice Chair Lear,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes,
Jane,
Yes,
Don,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So we've deemed the house not historically significant. Okay, moving on. The second application is 2517 Main Street, 21002. Again, to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158. Again, there was no Form B nor a listing on our potential to do Form Bs. And who again is speaking?
Susan Ledoux from Eastward Companies. Bill Marsh is here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll go again quickly over my project narrative that I submitted. And if you've been out to see the house, if you've seen the photos, the existing home at 2517 Main Street is an 880 square foot single story ranch style structure. The existing ridge of the home is 15 feet 2 inches in height. The existing home is located on an approximately 11,295 square foot lot. The assessor's map, street view, and aerial photographs show how the existing home sits on a right-of-way off of Main Street and is only visible to homes in the right-of-way. The assessor's information indicates that the house was built in 1935, same as the house at 2515. The home is not included on the Mass Historic Commission Form A for the South Chatham area. A review of the photographs of the house indicate that some cosmetic and interior changes have been made over the years. And although the existing home was built in 1935, again, this home does not exhibit any historical value. No distinguishing historical qualities can be identified for the structure, landscaping, site, and/or setting. And as far as the proposed work, the existing home is proposed to be demolished. A new home will be constructed on the site. And I've included in the packet for you what we are thinking of building at this site. And it's a home that we've built a few other times, once in Chatham, and it is an approximately 2,000 square foot, 1.5-story Greek revival style home with a covered front porch and an oversized 1-car attached garage. The footprint of the proposed house will be 1,532 square feet, approximately 74% larger than the existing footprint. And the proposed ridge of the home will be 27.8 feet high. The proposed house will be located just over 25 feet from the right of way. And again, this home will need to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals for approval because of the size of the lot. It's pre-existing non-conforming, but we will conform to all required building coverage and setbacks with this house. And that's my presentation.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
Okay, I guess this is very similar in terms of the situation we had with the previous house, but it is a separate structure. I guess my comments, I don't see much historical significance. And it probably is one of those that we should be talking about if we ever get into administrative review. But any member of the board like to make some comments relative to its historical significance and whether or not we should be considering putting a demolition delay on the property?
Frank, it's Bob. I think it's got sort of less appeal than the previous one. I mean, I agree with Sandy on the other one that that was a nice bungalow. I don't think this is. So looks more like an outbuilding.
Yeah, I would agree. Anybody else? No other comments? I assume the non-comments mean that you seem to be concurring that this particular little cottage is not historically significant, that we would like to put a demolition delay on it.
I think the home be donated to the Museum
Who's
of
speaking,
Modern.
please? 1 second, sir. Let me recognize. Please, 1 second. Just hold on. It's not time for public yet. Thank you. I will recognize you. So having said that, that comment relative to historical significance, I will, for the record, just remind people that we did have a previous letter from Gary Curtier, and we read, I won't read it again, but his comments were related to 2515 and 2517. Okay, Mr. Shapiro, any member of the public would like to speak relative to the historical significance of the property?
I'm actually all set on 2517. I'm all set.
Okay, if you had some questions relative to zoning, quick questions that Susan wanted to answer, I'm sure she would. Was that where you wanted to go, sir?
Well, you know what? They're pretty simple questions actually addressed to Bill and Susan, and they're not exactly with historical, but since you have the houses pretty much spec'd out, the only thing I didn't see was the amount of bedrooms for each property, 2515 and 2517. Could you elaborate a little on that, Susan?
I'm not sure yet on the number of bedrooms, so I can't really elaborate. I don't know if Bill knows more or that he'd like to talk about.
I can comment on that. First of all, Happy New Year to everybody. And as to the total number of bedrooms, there are 5 bedrooms in the bungalow and 1 bedroom in the small ranch structure to the right. And so Dave Clark, our engineer, has advised that we put in a IA system, nitrogen removal system, and it'd be a shared system for both buildings for a total capacity of 6 bedrooms. And I would like to, if I can, Frank, give Mr. Shapiro my cell phone, 508-294-8255. 80-103, and he's free to call me at any time with any other questions he may have. Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Marsh. So if there are no other comments or questions, I believe a motion relative to historical significance is in order. Mr. Lear?
Yes, sir. I move the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the building located at 2517 Main Street is not historically significant because it does not meet any of the definitional and 150 bylaw. Therefore, the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Steph Hamilton, I'll second.
Stephanie, thank you very much. Name first. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. Any other further comments or discussion? Any member of the public listening in would like to speak for or against? Thank you very much.
Frank, Mr. Small keeps waving at you.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that. Mr. Small?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry,
Yep.
sir.
So this is Bob Small. I live across the street on 2521.
Yes.
It's a philosophical question. Why wouldn't a house that was owned by one of the original Cape families be designated as historical?
Well, it's a good question. And we've tasseled with that on a number of homes in which we did not agree relative to historical significance, even though the property may have been owned at some time by, some significant member of the community. It's true, if you had, Bob Nickerson or Bill Nickerson's son's home in his cottage or something like that, or even someone going back into the 18 and 1900s. But when we look at it, we look at the criteria as it relates to, our bylaw. And we tend to focus more on architectural details, streetscape, and those elements. It's not to say we couldn't. If we had some kind of discussion as it relates to that. Now, if we have made a mistake, it's possible we did. But we usually use our Form B process, in which we hire a preservation consultant. In this case, it was done first in the 90s. I believe, Don, when was the Historical Commission established? I don't know.
I don't remember.
I think probably in the 80s. But in the 90s, Norm Pakin and a couple of other people, did the first Form Bs. The Form Bs is a way for us to do the research, or I say us, the Historical Commission, or we hire a preservation consultant to do the research. And in our case, what the preservation consultant found to the lack of architectural details and did not find anything significant as to rate somebody who lived here. I'm not saying that it's not the case, but we don't have anything for that. We don't have any record on that. Do we do an analysis of every home that comes before us relative to what you're saying, that a founder of the community lived there? I'll be honest with you, we don't have the resources to do that. We rely upon the previous work that was done on the Form B. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be missing somewhat of philosophical, at least, the point of preserving history, right? I mean, a lot of homes that are historic may not have any necessary significant architectural uniqueness to them, but
that's true.
Whether it's Nickerson or Kroll or Long, or pick the family that were the original, one of the original descendants of the Cape, that element of history is slowly going by the wayside. Listen, there's nothing. I look at the house every day. I wake up in the morning and I look at the cottage, and I look at the little house on 2517. That's what I see every single morning and every night when I go to bed. And I agree. There's nothing special to the home, historically speaking, from a architecture viewpoint. But the fact that the family has lived there, that was an important part of the Cape for almost 100+ years, I tend to think has historical significance, at least something to be thought about. Whether that's how the commission is organized or not, I don't know, but I do think it's an element of consideration in some of these cases.
So you're referring to the Crowell family?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's an old town, and there's a lot of people who've been here a lot of years.
Yep.
And if I can remain philosophical with you for a bit, trust me, the pushback we get from the community, even for what we do, when we try to impose demolition delay. And so that's where we are. Do you live in town full time?
During COVID, I would say we're there quite a bit.
Okay.
But, we've been coming to the Cape for quite some time, and we've owned the house since 13. And,
Well, the reason I ask is because when you decide to come live here full time, we're always looking for some brave souls to join us on the Historical Commission.
I'm more than happy to spend my time. I think history is something that is slowly slipping away from many of us, and the importance of it, but that's probably another discussion offline, most likely.
Well, trust me, we do agree with you in the philosophical sense. The issue then is practically what can we do and how can we be accepted by the community? I often remind people the Historical Commission exists because town meeting voted for it. And if if we go too far, they can remove it. All right, if you don't mind, we're going to move on.
Wait, can I just say something about the Crowells?
Who's that?
At least they got a street named after them.
All right.
Hand raised. Can I say something?
Mrs. Shapiro, could you turn your camera off? Thank you very much. Okay.
Frank, I have my
sorry.
hand raised. Can I be
Yes,
called on?
Ellen Briggs?
Yes. I want to thank Mr. Small for his comments. I think Jane Moffat especially, being an historic guru, she knows history, understands history in this town. Has been founded on history as many others, and we're watching it slip away. So I'm hoping that this will open a discussion on a possible additional qualification for assessing a house for its historic value.
We do already have that in our bylaw. The question is, how do we enforce it? But Jane, you have Mr. Small's information, so you maybe have another member of your Protect Our Past. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if we need to move on, if there's no further discussion or members of the public, I think a motion is appropriate.
I did the motion.
We did it. You're right. Sorry about that. Guys, I got to catch up. Okay, I'm going to take a roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Have a good
ladies and
night.
gentlemen, the public, I really do appreciate your comments. It gives us some feeling of hope that we're not blowing in the wind here. Thank you. Mr. Marsh, thank you. Susan, thank you.
Thanks to the Historic Commission very much, and Happy New Year.
Okay. We have another public hearing here. And this is a public hearing on the discussion and the vote on the proposed change to the Chatham Historical Commission Rules and Regulations, Section 7, review of demolitions under Chapter 158 of the Code of the Town Code, semicolon, B period, determination of applicability. Mr. Lear, would you mind reading it? My voice is going.
Sure. The Community Development Department's liaison to the commission shall determine whether or not an applicant's request is subject to review by the commission. In the event that the liaison is uncertain as to whether or not a request should come before the commission, for example, the age of the structure is uncertain, alterations are minor or consist of maintenance or repair, and the liaison shall request a determination in writing by the Chatham Historical Commission Chair and Vice Chair. The Chair and Vice Chair, paren, clerk, or other member designated by the Chair or Vice Chair, and paren, shall independently inspect the structure and research available information to make such a determination. If, after this due diligence, both reviewers agree that the project does not require an application for a full hearing before the commission, the applicant will be so notified in writing by a document signed by the reviewers, and the determination placed on the agenda for the next hearing for a ratification by the full commission. If both reviewers do not agree, the applicant shall be advised to file a complete application for a hearing.
Okay, a few words, if I may. The purpose here is to attempt to codify within our rules of regulation and expand a process where we currently provide assistance to community development, specifically our liaison, Michelle, when there's a question relative to the appropriateness of an application and whether or not we could help streamline the process a bit. Mr. Lear and I got together, but mostly the words from our consigliere, Mr. Lear, found a way which we can codify the situation. As your chairman, when Michelle asked me a question, I usually ask the vice chair to confirm my own determination as it relates to the age or appropriateness of an application. You know, we're trying to move to some level of administrative review, you know, when we have applications which were obvious shouldn't come before us. And so this is a way to attempt to try and to do that and make sure there's both the chair and the vice chair are agreeing. I got your hand, Steph. Thank you. And that we then come back to the full commission and let you know what we're doing. So it's not attempt to circumvent anything, but just to help codify the process. Having said that, I think it's appropriate at this time for members of the commission. We have Ms. Briggs' hand up, which I'll address lately in a minute. But first, let's do the members. Steph, yes?
I'm just curious if a house goes before you and you decide it doesn't need to go before the board, will you yourself announce it that it has come forward? Thank you.
Bob, why don't you answer that question?
Let me go back a second, Steph. If you're asking if we review it and determine that it does not have to go before the commission, does that come before the commission?
Doesn't come before the commission. Is the commission told that it came before us, or it came before the board?
You will get it. It will be brought to the commission to ratify it if two reviewers agree. If the two reviewers do not agree, it comes before the commission as a full application.
Thank you.
Say that again, Bob, for the members of the public.
If the two reviewers agree, it goes to the next commission hearing to be ratified by the full commission. In other words, just a bit of background, both the Conservation Commission and the Business District Commission have a comparable progress, but it involves ratification by the full commission. So it's not just a determination by one or two people. And so we're adopting that protection for everybody. So that's why we asked for the full ratification. And obviously, if one of the reviewers does not agree that it should not come, then it goes to a full hearing before the commission. So it's just a step in there, which is hopefully a quick one. Right. But it will save administrative effort and funds by the applicant to get a resolution.
Yeah, let me just comment on that one second, Steph. What you're saving for the applicant, of course, is the application fee, but I guess we could determine that, Michelle. But there are also attorney's fees, architectural fees, you know, and potentially, you know, for an application that becomes very obvious, like it really shouldn't come here. So that's all we're trying to do. But again, as Bob indicated, if both the chair and the vice chair do not agree, the application will be submitted as a full application. If we agree, that it should not come, you will still come before the commission to ratify our previous decision.
Thank you.
Okay, good, I got that. Now I understand it better myself. So, any other members of the commission wish to comment? Thank you. Any members of the public wish to comment? This is a public hearing. Okay, I guess at this particular point, if we could get a motion to adopt this change to our rules and reg, we will put it in process. Mr. Lear?
Yeah, I move that the Historical Commission adopt the change in the regulations at section 7, subparagraph B, determined applicability. That's it.
Jane, second.
Jane, thank you very much. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Thank you. Jane?
Yes.
Steph, did I miss you?
Yes,
Yes, thank
yes, yes, and yes.
you. Don?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. And I really want to thank Bob for doing yeoman's work here. Okay, new business. I'm sure Kevin has been sitting around waiting. We have an application for submission to the Community Preservation Committee for the Historical Commission review relative to its historical significance and approval or concurrence that this is a good expenditure of historical preservation funds as part of the Community Preservation Act. It's an application dated October 13, 2020, CPA 2020-22. My goodness, you have 22 applications, Stephanie? Well, it says 22.
I don't know. I only know what you heard yesterday. I
Yeah.
haven't heard anything else.
Well, okay. I believe we have the brand new, sparkling brand new executive director of the Atwood on board,
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Kevin
you, Frank.
Wright. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Kevin Wright. I'm the, as Frank mentioned, I'm the new executive director at the Atwood Museum. And I'm very pleased to be here with you all today. Happy New Year. The project that we are looking for funding is designed to restore and rehabilitate the roofs on 3 buildings that comprise the Atwood Museum, home of the Chatham Historical Society. The Atwood Museum offers 14 exhibits, 12 galleries, a collection of over 4,000 objects, and 6,000 documents. It has a research facility and educational programs, which includes lectures and panel discussions. The museum is open year-round for lectures, private tours, groups, research, and special events. Exhibits are open to the public from May till December. And the museum serves an average of 4,000 visitors each year. The buildings on the property of the Chatham Historical Society are a reflection of our core values. Being a museum of historic importance in the community of Chatham, our goal is to restore the roofs to the appearance of its original quality. Why is restoration important? Restoration is the legacy we leave to our next generation. The following are a few objectives that I'll point out. Restoration of 3 roofs that include the mural barn, which houses paintings by world-renowned artist Alice Stalnick, painted in the early 1930s. The Joshua A. Nickerson Camp, built in the early 40s on North Beach and donated to the Chatham Historical Society in 1991. And the roof over the entrance to the Atwood Museum. Restoration of the roofs are to be completed by Paul Cazalt & Sons, a well-established and respected roofing company out of Osterville. Our vice chair, Stephen Nickerson, a Chatham resident and expert in the construction field, will oversee the project. And just to name a few highlights, this project will include restoring red cedar shingles, any rotted or deteriorating sheathing, installation of ice and water shield on the bottom 3 feet of the roof, and all the flashing will be done in red copper. So if you have any questions, I will defer to our resident expert, Steve Nickerson, and thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Kevin. When reviewing the application, and I didn't have all the papers, I had asked Kevin today, which buildings are we talking about? And Kevin sent to me this document, which I sent to you guys this afternoon, to try to discern which buildings we're talking about. And the cottage, or the, what's it referred to? The shed?
Camp.
The cabin, right. The cabin and then the barn. Assuming that we agree that this is, although it may be maintenance, it's maintenance of an historic property. I think we have to think about if we have in the past indicated whether the barn or the cabin was historically significant. I don't think it's a big thing, but it's something we should think about to be consistent. So, Mr. Nickerson, I heard you last night at the Community Preservation Committee meeting, and certainly, you can go into great details relative to, the roofing process that you're going to do. And I think your application and the information we have from, I can't think of the name of the company that you're looking at. Caswet? Cazal. Is that the contractor you're thinking of using, or just the bid?
Yes, he's highly considered. Yes, he's on my top list.
So I guess, that before you go into the details, I want to kind of move things along a little bit. Can I hear from the members of the commission as it relates to the historical significance of the buildings we're talking about? Don?
Frank, I have a question about, was the roofing done before paid for by CPA funds?
I don't believe so, no. The only CPA funds we have ever put onto this property were the actual historic building, the Atwood building. We did not pay for the repair of those other roofs.
Frank?
Yes, Jane, and then
Can I
Steph,
say
I'm sorry.
something? This is Jane talking. I think what Don's referring to is that we were up in the attic and we were looking at the beams underneath the roof. Remember that, Don? And
Yeah, that was the original Atwood house, yes.
Right, and so that may be what you're thinking of.
Yeah, this does not include money for that. This is the other buildings. This is the museum, the entranceway of the new museum, and the barn.
Yes, I did want to try to clarify, and also I have another question for Steve and Kevin. As a former member of CPC, did you get any other estimates?
Yes. First of all, I'm Steve Nickerson. I'm the vice chair of the Board of Trustees of the Historical Society, and I also am chair of the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Yes, we did apply or ask for 3 different quotes from 3 different companies.
Okay, let's not dwell on the cost. That's the CPC. They get paid more money than we do. Stephanie?
I just wonder, shouldn't we be taking into consideration the things that are under that roof, such as the historic items?
If you're asking me, I don't disagree with you at all, except what I would like to do, that to be consistent, because we haven't done it, is to come forward with a motion as it relates to the I keep calling it the cabin and the barn, and relative to indicate that it's historically significant. We have paid for roofs in the past. For instance, I think Don reminded me, we did the what was the name of that?
We did the Masonic Lodge. back in
Masonic Lodge,
2015, yeah.
but we did that and we added it to a project that was historic quotes. It was an historically significant building. And, relative to the interior contents, that's an interesting thought, but I don't know if it's, from my perspective, it's what we're concerning about. All right, I understand, Steph. I'll get to your letter too. Steve? Yes, sir. Mr. Burlingame.
Just speaking a little bit to the historical significance, as you know, I'm a board member of the Chatham Historical Society, but certainly the camp, the Nickerson camp, which is one of our more recent acquisitions, but we've had it quite some time, was is clearly one of the typical camps that once existed in by the dozen out on a North Beach. Just before it was to be destroyed by the next storm, Mr. Nicholson was kind enough not only to donate his camp to the museum, but paid to have it barged over to the mainland and trucked down to the museum site. It contains all the things that were in that camp at the time of its movement. It's certainly historically correct and significant in the sense that it's the only camp that the public has any access to. It's a real teaching lesson. When children see it, they fascinated by what life was like out on the North Beach many years ago. As to the mural barn was once a building that was part of the Chatham Depot when the railroad was in Chatham. Mrs. Stoneck, the artist who painted all the murals, acquired that barn and had it moved to her residence on State Harbor Road any number of years ago. And when she donated the murals, she also donated the barn in which they were housed at that time. The extent that it was one of the original buildings of the Chatham Railroad complex, and the fact that it's always housed, that it has housed for many years, the very, I guess, famous collection of her artwork.
All right, well, you know, what you're doing, Steve, is I'm going to give you an assignment when we're done with this. We got nothing else to do, okay? There is no Form B. There's no documentation for us of the barn nor of the cabin that I could see. So what I'd like to suggest, because we seem to be moving in that direction, indicating, yeah, these are two historic structures and they may be worthy of community preservation funds, you know, as restoration of an historically significant home. What we could do here, and I'm just speaking ahead, hopefully not out of turn, we should pass two motions relative to the historical significance of these two properties. And then I would like to suggest that the Historical Society, the Atwood, work with you or somebody and provide some information so we could do a Form B and document it. You know, the Historical Society, unfortunately, you know, does not have a National Register building because there was really not good documentation of the building, you know, before they proceeded on some of those changes. So I think it's probably worthwhile for us to do that, independent of this discussion. You know, Steve?
I'd be glad to work with Steve Dixon and Kevin to do that.
Right. Excellent. It's not, you know, it's not a big deal to do, Mr. Nicholson, but at least we have a formal documentation. You know, if you heard earlier, somebody asked the question, you know, somebody lived here. Did you know that? Well, we didn't know that, you know, but if you document it, and the way to document it is in our Form Bs, so there is a written history, similar to what the Historical Society does, but it's a lot easily accessible. Don, did you have your hand up?
I'm sorry?
You took your hand down? I thought you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that the reason for my question was the Railroad Museum's roof was redone by CPA funds.
The what? I'm sorry?
The Railroad Museum roof was redone paid for by CPA funds. But the next time it's maintenance, it's not preservation. So if this was the first time this has been done, then it's legitimate. If it's the second time it's been done, then it's maintenance.
So you're concurring that because it's the first time, it's restoration?
Yes.
Okay, we seem to be in violent agreement here, guys. So without further ado.
I'm getting a little confused here. Ben.
Oh, yes, Ben, go ahead.
We're talking about a building that we haven't documented as being and there's no doubt that what's in it is historic. But now we're appropriating funds for something that may or not be historic and may or may not be maintenance or restoration. So, I think that you gotta dot your I's and cross your T's from the beginning. Either get a Form B or do something to find out, A, it's historically significant, and then go down from there. So, we're just jumping from pillar to post here, and I just think that these things should be documented before we do anything. That's it.
Ben, if in the future, could you get closer to the microphone? I got to turn my hearing aid up. It's very hard to hear you. Am I the only one having difficulty hearing Ben?
Yes.
All right, it's my hearing aids. Okay. Having said that, Ben, I don't disagree with you, but I think we've got a situation here where anecdotally, if I will, or by testimony, we all know the barn and we all know the camp, and I think it would not be inappropriate for this commission to pass a resolution acknowledging the historical significance of both the barn and the camp, and we can do it in one resolution at the same time, and then the resolution would authorize me to send a letter to the Community Preservation Committee indicating we feel the use of these funds is appropriate. I think that was a motion.
Well, okay, fine. If that's the way you want to go, that's the way you want to go. But I was just thinking about, we just keep jumping into this and we're saying maybe this and maybe that.
Well, I don't think there's a maybe on the barn or the in my opinion. But what we need to do, Ben, and I think what we've asked Steve to do is to document a history that pretty much most of us know.
That history is readily available.
Fine, but what I'm saying here is, I'm not deprecating the camp, but these camps used to blow away all the time, and this one from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 80s, the 90s, I remember when I first moved here 20 years ago, there were tons of camps. I don't see anything except some trucks out there now once in a while. So, I think that it should be documented best you can. And if that's, as I say, if that's where you want to go, that's where you want to go. I'm bringing up some points here, that's all.
All right, well, I think we do have an action plan here to proceed with the Form B. But in the meantime, I'd like to formally document my motion.
I'll second it, Steph Hamilton.
All right.
Frank, it's Bob. You've mentioned the barn and the camp, but there's 3 buildings involved, am I correct? 3 separate roofs?
The third one, Bob, is just the, like the portico entrance to the museum itself. It's not part of any of those other buildings. It's not part of the original Atwood House, not part of the camp, not part of the mural barn. It's the museum building itself.
I have no problem.
Frank is referring to two of the 3. That's all my question is. I don't
that's
know
correct.
what he means to do that.
Yes, that was my motion. I was only referring to 2 of the 3.
But that building that Steve's referring to, if I might, used to be called the Lincoln Room back in the day, and I think it was one of the first additions put on by the Historical Society. And I believe it was added onto the building in the 40s. So therefore, it would be historically significant by your standards.
I'm not objecting to that. I was just trying to clarify Frank's motion because it did not include all three buildings.
Okay.
All right, I'll modify my motion to include the connecting element to the barn and to the Atwood. Do you accept my?
I will change my second.
All right. We're going to get through this, guys. All right. Unless there's major objections, I'd like to take a roll call. Any member of the public wish to speak? None? Okay, Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Don,
Yes,
and the chair votes yes. Sorry to drag you through that, Mr. Nickerson, but we need to dot the i's and cross the t's as best we can. But I would
Understand.
ask you if you would work with Steve to document, in this Form B, and then, at least we have a record of it and we don't have to drag ourselves through this again.
I think that's a great idea, and Steve and I will both willing to take care of that for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you very much, Frank. Thank you, everybody on the committee. Appreciate it.
Kevin, sorry we took so long, but that's
No,
the way
that's
it
okay.
goes.
No worries. All right, thank you.
All right, we have about a half hour here, gentlemen and ladies. And there's a number of things we need to quickly, not that you've been listening to me at all for the last hour or so. I just want to report on a number of things that we as a commission and yours truly is involved in. Under old business, the final draft of the proposed bylaw to make zoning changes to enhance historic preservation. Ally, our principal planner, and I and Mr. Lear met with the Zoning Board of Adjustment and Planning Board chairs. We had a very good meeting, and we had a number of very good comments on our draft. Specifically, action items, just so you know, were in the issue of item 5, section as it relates to the specific incentives. And the zoning board chairman had some comments and was going to have a separate meeting with Ally when she returns from vacation on the percentages. We had we just put some markers in 10%, but the chairman, Mr. Nixon, is going to be discussing that with Ally and coming back to us on the 19th with some specific recommendations based upon his experience as it relates to knowledge of zoning, which quite candidly, I don't think any of us really have, and knowledge of what's going on in town. So on the 19th, we will have an additional discussion and a revised draft. The next step after that would be for us to go back to the full planning board and the full zoning board of adjustment, and then possibly to the Board of Selectmen, and hopefully to town council to come up with a formal legal draft that we could present in town meeting if there is a town meeting in May. So it's moving forward, mostly with staff and myself and Mr. Lear. Second item is the close to my heart for the last 15 years, and Don, is the U.S. Coast Guard boathouse in Chatham. This has been a real roller coaster over the last 6 months or so. But the bottom line at this particular point is that the Mr. Dave Doherty, who's kind of the leader of our small band of merry men, will be presenting to the Board of Selectmen tonight a proposal for asking the Board of Selectmen to accept the donation of the U.S. Coast Guard boathouse, which was formerly in Chatham, as a potential utilization as the upweller in Stage Harbor. Currently, Mr. Doherty has the ownership of it, and we have agreements with Mr. Cashman, who's been very helpful, to move it and to store it. But the town of Chatham has to, I think the expression is fish or cut bait. They're going to have to say, yes, we want it, and work out the details of what we utilize it for. I'm going to give you a speech now. I don't know how many years ago the town of Chatham could have had the property and the building for $1. And somebody decided, what are we going to do with it? Okay. I can't tell you how much shorefront property has been lost in this town because people were short-sighted. And I hope that doesn't happen tonight. Boy, do I sound like I'm running for office. So having said that, the Historical Commission, we have completed the assignment of the Form B. You have a copy of it. Hopefully you have looked at it, and I think they did a great job. When I say they, it was done by Eric Dre with extensive help of Dick Cracer, Dick Ryder. Dick is a former U.S. Navy and has a lot of ties to the U.S. Coast Guard. And I believe Dick is a member of the Coast Guard Historical Museum. And so we've got really some good information on the history of the building, documented in a Form B, as well as its historical significance, when it was used in Chatham, also its connection to the Pendleton, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So without further ado, I would like to ask the commission to concur, and we will send this forward to Mass Historic. Any other questions or comments?
Frank, it's Bob. Just a question, I guess.
Yes, sir.
I think the selectmen or somebody at the meeting may raise the question of if the Mass Historic does grant our request and give it that historical significance, does that in any way limit what the town would be able to do with the building?
Well, let me tell you my strategy here. It's not secret because this is public. First of all, we want to document, because we've never documented the history of this building, and we have that. The preservation consultant thinks there's a 50-50 chance that Mass Historic may or may say this is eligible. Even if they say it's eligible, the chances of it ever becoming a National Register property are very slim, because the building was moved, you know, by the time the town takes it and makes changes for the upweller, you know, but it doesn't stop us, I think, from, as a historical commission, say, hey, you know, we think this really is eligible. It's something worthwhile. And on top of that, by doing that, it could be eligible for preservation funds, not only with a CPC, but preservation funds at the state level, because the state does give grants, matching grants to towns for upgrade and repair of historical buildings, 50-50 match. So I think it's worthwhile to take a shot. You know, we've done this else time. I mean, for instance, you know, there were Form A's and Form B's sitting in our file for 30 years or 40 years, like the South Chatham Village, and we said it was eligible, but nobody ever did anything, okay? So we finally did something, and we'll talk about that. So anyway, with that philosophical discussion here, I think we should go forward unless somebody else objects.
No, I have no problem. I just want to make sure we're not creating something we don't want to create.
Right. You got to remember, the town asked me not to send forward the criteria. So this is just Eric's opinion. What we haven't done is we haven't done the next step, which is the historical commission agreeing to go forward and actually ask Mass Historic to consider it as a National Register property. We haven't done that. All we're saying is that this could be eligible.
Okay, that's fine. I read the packet that the selectmen got, and I frankly don't see that they would be planning to do anything treacherous to the exterior.
Oh, in fact, I'm glad you said that. I haven't had a chance to look at it. I've been busy with something called the Historical Commission, but I will do that.
Well, you're the engineer. You'll love it, I'll tell you.
Ah, great. Thank you. I thought I was going to have dinner before 6 o'clock. All right. Yeah. So can I get a motion to submit this to Mass Historic as it completes?
Frank, it's Don. I move that we submit it.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Jane, I second.
Jane, okay. No other questions? Roll call. Mr. Lear.
Yes, aye.
Porter, Sandy?
Aye.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Aye.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The next step here, by the way, would be, if the town votes to accept it, would be hopefully that they would apply for community preservation funds, Stephanie, and so, but we're going to wait on that until the town makes some decisions. Okay, I'm going to talk quickly. We got 15 minutes. Preservation awards. Michelle, you're still here?
Yep, sorry about that. I'm not quick on the draw, but yes, I'm here.
That's it, no problem. There's a meeting tentatively scheduled on January 29th. of the Preservation Awards Committee. Now, unfortunately, it's myself and Erica, and hopefully I can find out what's going on with her. But I guess what I'd like to do on the 29th, if we don't have any other applications, and how many we have, Michelle, two or
We
three?
have two, yeah, we have two from last year. I haven't received any for this year yet, but the deadline is still a bit out.
Okay, so even with the two, because we did make the determination in 2019, I guess, I would like to go ahead and have a small Zoom meeting to allow us to provide the awards to the two applications. So that's my thinking. Hopefully you guys concur or no objection. Wonderful. Okay, moving right along. The next item is the review of guidelines. There's an action item here for Miss Michelle Clark and myself to get Miss Donovan to agree on a date for a meeting. So we still want to do that. And Michelle, given what we did today, changing the rules and regulations, I really would like to discuss that with Katie too.
Okay, perfect. I will ask her again.
Okay. Demolition delay status, you have a copy of it. I think I have one dated 12/21. I think that's the latest. I guess what we want to note on this, we have three buildings which a demolition expired this year. Seaview Street, 107 and 233, as well as Salt Pond. No comment yet. We have a couple of applications which have expired and nothing has happened. I would indicate on 68 Shell Drive, they went to the ZBA and they withdrew it. They are currently meeting with Conscom on the 13th, I believe, and then on the ZBA on the 28th. So we still don't know where we are with 68 Shell Drive, other than the fact that Mr. Chick-Leone has submitted an application on potentially preserving the exterior of the building. Seaview Street.
Frank,
Yes, sir.
it's done.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you're aware that the property next to 68 is now on the market.
Yeah, I heard about it. The cannons. Somebody want to buy some cannons?
No, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I know that the Historical Society, Mr. Burlingame, you're still on the board?
I am.
The Historical Society, no, excuse me, I misspoke. It was the Nickerson Family Association was interested in the cannons. But maybe it's something that the Historical Society should think about, obtaining those cannons. I mean, they're really, talk about a part of history.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole basis of Cannon Hill. And apparently they were dragged from the water by a Nickerson, a long time ago. And there's some wonderful documentation on the cannon. So
Great. I'll follow through.
yeah, okay. That's it, unless somebody has any other questions. So the next item is the Monomoy Theater. Quite candidly, I think I may have missed it. Michelle, do you know if Monomoy went before the HBDC?
I believe they're scheduled to go back again to the HBDC after their appearance with the Board of Selectmen. I believe I talked to Sarah this morning and they're going back before the HBDC again. I'm not sure when though. I believe they have filed an application. I just don't know what the date of the hearing might be.
When you find out, if you can let me know, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, I will.
And last but not least, I decided to pen off a letter to Miss Betsy Freeberg, the director of Mass Historical Commission, and lo and behold, she answered me right away, and I did send a copy to you, so you do have it. And if you read the letter, we can report publicly that the Mass Historic Commission is reviewing the application, and she expects the letter will go out fairly soon. She doesn't tell me whether it's going to be positive or negative, but at least we know that they are moving. And the next step would be for the application to go before the state review board, and they vote. Now, once they vote, and I believe the next process after that would be the submission of the application to the Department of Interior. Don, can you confirm that?
I think you're right.
So this is positive. You know, since we've submitted the application, we haven't heard anything at all in terms of additional questions from Mass Historic. So they felt the application, I believe, was complete and positive. When it goes to the State Review Board, that's when Mass Historic Commission will come back into Chatham and hold a public meeting of everybody in the potential National Register district, and they'll get their input. So there are still the steps to go, but it's a positive thing. I think that's it. I talked myself out.
Hey, Frank?
The position of
Frank, I have a
chairman of the
question.
Historical Commission is going to be open soon.
What? Yeah, wait, I have a question here, Frank.
Yes, sir.
Now that you've declared our commission essential, when do we go down and get vaccinated?
Doctor,
We are essential, aren't
if
we?
you have no if you don't have a connection to make it happen, I don't know who would.
We're looking, as always, we're looking to our leader here, Frank.
Those 75 years and older are eligible to be in the first phase of round 2.
Yeah, but round 2 hasn't started.
Round 2 is
No.
February. We're looking for round 1 right now.
Is it over 75 or over 65?
It's 80, I think, or 75 or 80.
This meeting is deteriorating.
Okay, guys.
Frank,
Second.
Frank,
Raise your hand. Yes, Jane.
I have a question. I'm not quite sure how it was left with the CPC application for the Atwood House.
You voted for me to send a letter to approve it.
Okay. Says the deadline is January 15th.
Say again?
Because the deadline is January 15th.
They have already submitted the application. They submitted it last night. This would just be a formality for Steph and the rest of the committee to consider when they actually vote at the end of January.
Right, okay. I didn't know it was held up by the documentation.
Yeah. By the way, being to continue this levity, my brother, who's an ex-fireman in Long Island, has been vaccinated.
Okay.
And I was talking to a friend in Tennessee, where in Tennessee, you just get online.
Yeah.
And he got vaccinated.
I understand that we are right behind the prisoners of the state of Massachusetts. So I'm thinking that what I might do is join them. I'll take a rock and throw it through the window of the squire or something, get arrested, and maybe I can get my shot.
Yeah, I know.
Right. We've totally deteriorated. I would like a motion to adjourn.
I think there's a motion on the floor.
Don did.
All right.
Second.
Second, I assume we got seconds.
Jane.
Okay.
All right, I have to do a roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Absolutely.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And I guess the chair votes yes. This is getting to be a lot of work, guys. Thank you very much. Everybody be safe. And we'll see each other on the 19th.
All right. Thanks, Frank.
And I'm going to be on I'll be on the selectmen meeting tonight.